Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never, ever hurt me. Boy, that's the biggest lie we have ever been told because words, they do matter. They do have power. They can hurt. Words have started wars. Words have broken up marriages. Words have destroyed families, destroyed and severed relationships. Words have brought insecurity over students and children. Words can destroy a friendship. Words, believe it or not, can even put you in jail. Like words have incredible power, and Jesus taught this. Here it is Valentine's Day, and a lot of cards of affection and words of endearment are going to be expressed to each other. But I want you to think about the power of your words and how they impact your relationships around you. The two greatest commandments that Jesus gave us was to love God with all of our heart. And also the second one is just as great, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. How do we fulfill that? Part of how you're showing how you love your neighbor, your friend, your spouse, your children, the people you go to church with, people you shop with, people you go to work with, you're involved in your community. A lot of that is demonstrated by the words that we say and speak, and words have power. There's a lot going on in Matthew chapter 5, especially in verses 21, 22. I've really been studying on this as we're looking at this new series of love your neighbor. Like, how do we love our neighbor? How do we really fulfill this commandment? It's not an option. How do we do this? And really think intentionally. Well, one of them is your words. In fact, let me give you an example, and there's so much to unpack here, and I probably will come back later and do some more insight on these two verses. But Jesus mentioned, he says, if you say to your neighbor or to your friend or your spouse or children even, if you call them a fool, he's not necessarily talking about joking, but I'm a little tighter with that. I think we should be careful with even how we're joking. But he's saying if you call them a fool, you are in a position to be damned to hellfire. Like, this is very serious. Jesus cares about how we treat people and how we speak towards people. And we're in a culture, man, and social media has just taken the lid off of this, has taken the limits off, and we can just say anything that we want and hide behind a keyboard and speak all kinds of stuff and comment and have opinions about stuff. And some of those opinions are very sharp and rude and crude, and we don't even think a bit about, one, what are we creating, and what's the long-term impact that we're creating? And then secondly, we're definitely not thinking about what is God recording about these words that we're speaking. And Jesus is very serious about this. And I'm telling you, even we're to the point where he says, you think you're holy and you're bringing worship to me, an offering to me, and you have done something and has said something, or you stole something, or you robbed them of something, or you've devalued someone, and you're bringing an offering and you're lifting your hands in worship to me? He says, no, leave your gift at the altar. Leave whatever you bring to me, leave it here, but get up and go to the person that you have offended, that you have done wrong, that you have spoken evil towards. You call them an idiot, a fool, whatever it is, and you need to go and make it right. Then come back to your gift, your offering. Come back to that place of worship. What was he saying? God is putting precedence, importance on how we're treating people. The attitude of your heart is more important than the rituals of worship. Reconciliation, the three R's of being in alignment with God, the three R's. What are they? Repentance, that's vertical to God. Restitution and reconciliation, that's vertical, that's going to your friend, your neighbor, your spouse. And maybe you have written cards of words on Valentine's Day, but you have never went back and said, hey, what I said about you in that moment where I was upset, I was wrong, and will you forgive me? Make it three R's: repentance, reconciliation, and restitution. We've got to make them right. And Jesus is very concerned about this, that we understand this and get this so that we can actually fulfill this commandment of how do we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Well, start with the closest people around you, because you probably will take advantage of them. and are very loose with your words, and you may have said some things that they do matter. And I get being lighthearted and joking, but we really need to be careful and be a little more intentional with what we say about people. Why? Because listen, when he says if you have said in your heart, you maybe said in there thing that you're all arrogant and self-righteous, that you've never murdered someone, but I'm telling you, you have murdered them with your words. And he says, if you have said to someone, you fool. Why? Because fool, calling someone a fool, in that culture meant despising their worth. Despising the worth. It's not just joking. You're despising. So those are leaning towards this hatred. You're leaning towards contempt. You're leaning towards these cruel words, and they are roots of murder. And that's what Jesus is saying. So, how do we love our neighbor? Well, first, let's pay really close attention to the attitudes of our heart. How do we feel towards people, and what do we say about them behind their back, to their face? How can we be more intentional with our words that will help us love our neighbor? Because you can't love God by hating your neighbor or despising your neighbor or not being what you need to be to your neighbor as well. Make it a great day. Love God and love people.